Hello and welcome to my Cruella wig styling tutorial. This is based off of her future look from the 2021 film. So I had a hard time finding a wig where the white was on the left and the black was on the right, just like in the film. But I managed to find this one from Wigisfashion. It's obviously a bit too long, but it's the only wig I could find at the time. So the first thing I'm going to do with this wig is actually straighten it. I give the wig a brush through, and then I get my steamer and straighten it with the steamer and the brush. The reason I use a steamer to straighten this is because we need to apply heat to change the shape of the wig. The wig is actually made of plastic, it's not real hair, it's a synthetic wig. In order to change the shape you need to apply heat, and steamers are perfect for this. The next thing I wanted to work on was this white colour on the left side of the wig. When I bought the wig, the first impression I got is that the white colour looked really fake. It didn't look like the sort of white colour you'd get on normal hair. It just did not look natural at all. So I decided I was going to tone this side of the wig. To tone the wig, I'm using Rit Dye More in Chocolate Brown. When you're toning a wig, you don't need a lot of dye at all. You're only changing the shade and not the actual colour. So I just add a little splash of this to the water. Make sure you stir it through with a spoon. Don't use the spoon for anything else. Only use it for dye. And then I'm cutting my test piece off of the hair. If you want, you can secure your test piece at the top with some masking tape so the hair doesn't go everywhere. So you can see the colour of the water, it's still really watery, but you can see it's brown. And this will tone it just slightly, so I dip it in and then check the colour. So after dipping it in, I thought that the tone was just a bit too dark. So what I did then was I took out some of the mixture, I poured some down the sink, then I grabbed my kettle and added more water, so this diluted the colour a lot more, so it's almost like half the colour that I had before. I grab another test piece and dip it in. Keep in mind as well, the length of time you leave it in will affect the colour also, so if I'm toning something I wouldn't put it in for too long, probably a maximum of 30 seconds. So after I dipped that in, I actually felt like that colour was really suitable and looked a lot more natural without looking too far off. It's hard to tell here from the test next to the wig. However, I'll show you a comparison later and you will see that there's a difference. So the next step is to dunk in the wig. I actually dunked the whole thing in because the dark side is so dark that if it's toned you won't even really notice that there's a difference. Whereas the white you will. Another thing with toning wigs is you might want to test it on the lace. It can affect the lace slightly, so if you are worried about that, when you buy your wig, just cut a little bit of lace off the front and just dip that in also. When your wig arrives, you always get like an excess when you get a lace front. So after 30 seconds, I then take the pot through to the kitchen, I pour my mixture down the sink, and then I rinse the wig with lukewarm water. Next, I put the wig back on the wig stand and I blow dry the wig. I never leave an unstyled wig to dry. A lot of the strands can clump together and it can dry almost with more tugs in it and things like that. So I like to blow dry it and just make sure that there won't be any more tugs and they won't sort of dry in big clumps together. After toning this side of the wig, I was so happy with it. It was something I really wanted to do just to kind of get it looking a lot more natural. You can see this footage of the original colour next to the toned colour, and you can obviously see that it's just looking that bit more greyish almost. It's like a greyish white, and I just felt like that looked more natural. So another problem with the wig was this middle parting is so straight. In the film, Cruella's hair parting is not poker straight like this. She's actually got some of the white strands over onto the black side. So with that in mind, it meant I could take some of the white strands over onto the black side, which would break up the parting. To do this, I use a tail comb and I just pick up little strands from the white side of the wig and pull them over to the black side. I try not to take too many strands over. It's really just enough to break up the hairline and then have just a couple of grey sort of strands on the other side. Having taken these white strands onto the other side, they're going to want to keep flipping back. The reason for this is that the wig is made of thermoplastic, so the white strands are going to want to bounce back onto the right hand side there. We need to retrain the roots of these strands to sit flat against the black. To do this we need heat, and so I'm using a steamer. The next issue with the wig is actually cutting it the right length. It's quite a complicated style, and I'm not a hairdresser, so if you're ever in doubt about cutting your wigs, just make sure you do it a bit longer, style it, and then you can free cut it at the end. Sometimes I overcut things and then they end up ruined, so this is just to prevent that happening. You can see I'm just chopping into this wig as well. It doesn't matter, a lot of it's getting cut off anyway, so don't worry if it's not perfectly cut. I'm just hacking into it at the moment, just trying to get rid of the length. So the wig's now like a mid-length. The reason I haven't cut it shorter is because some of the strands at the back go so high and I didn't know how long to make them. So I just wanted to make sure I had enough material to work with. I'm sectioning off the front of the hair. The reason for this is the style at the front differs from the one at the back. The back's got a lot of volume and it sticks up a lot. The front has this kind of like finger wave on it, so I'm just making sure they're two separate things and then we'll bring them all together at the end. For the future look, Cruella's hair looked to me like it had been curled and it had just been messed up afterwards. For speed, I decided to just use rollers for this. They were the exact size that I needed and they'll give the right look that I need. I take roughly an inch section at a time and roll them up. I'm starting with the back of the wig and I'm obviously rolling it away from the crown. You can see I'm using the tail cone to separate the hair, so to get your sections it might help just to do that. Don't worry if some of the white section goes in with the black, it just looks a lot more natural when that happens. I continue rolling with the rollers until they're all in. So once we have our back section, if there's anything you want to redo, just do it before you move on. Then we can start at the front section. So obviously with the back section, I aimed them towards the back, so they all curl backwards. For the ones at the front, I'm actually curling them so they're kind of going diagonally back. Doing this technique at the front just means that the curls will fall nicely around the face. As with the back, you just continue this throughout the whole of that section. So once you're finished the front and back, it should look like this. Don't worry if it's not perfect because you're messing it up anyway. That's the beauty of this wig, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've got a good old bag for life from Asda and I'm putting over the wig. Just make sure you don't have big holes in the bag. So I grab my steamer and I put it underneath the bag, and what that does is the whole bag fills up with steam. So the whole wig gets saturated with the steam. I would give the steamer at least a couple of minutes just to really fill the bag and saturate the wig. Obviously once we take the bag off, the wig is going to be hot and it's going to be damp. So I actually returned to the wig later in the day. I gave it time to cool, set and dry. Once the wig is cool and dried, you can remove the rollers. You'll notice as well I used some larger rollers just at the bottom there. Mainly it's because I was running out of the yellow ones, but it was right at the bottom anyway, so I didn't think it mattered too much if they're just slightly bigger. I'd say if you're using any bigger rollers, definitely put them at the bottom, not at the top. We need tighter curls at the top to help create the right look and help with volume. One of the main differences with the wig in the film and this look right now is the actual backcombing that's on it. So I take a backcombing brush and I just pack all the hair down. So whenever you're backcombing, lift up the section and just backcomb the back of it. You're basically packing the hair down as much as possible. Usually I do a different brushing technique, but at this point I just wanted to get as much mess as possible, so don't worry about it. I'd really go in hard with the brush as much as you can. Especially at the back of the hair where it's actually got a lot of height, you will need a lot of backcombing at the back. So you can see what I mean already, it's already got a lot of volume here. The reason that backcombing brushes work so well is because all the bristles are different lengths, so it kind of catches the hair a lot better. It enables you to really pack the hair right down. Once I've done one side of the wig, I then move on to the other side and repeat the process. Once both sides are done, I backcomb the very back, which needs the most work. keep backcombing the back of it until it's roughly kind of the shape I might want, because I don't want to cut it and then backcomb it more and then the shape will change and I've cut too much off. So now that most of the back has been backcombed, I want to work on this little finger wave that's at the front. There is a technique for finger waves, right? We're dealing with a synthetic wig here, so some of the rules don't always have to apply, right? So what I did was I just took a tail comb and my steamer and I just kind of pushed it into place. Like I just steamed kind of at the flat bit there and then pushed it up. So if you're not completely comfortable with a technique, sometimes with these wigs you can kind of cheat it. Basically the rule is you add heat to change the shape and you use whatever tool is the shape that you need to help you get there. You can see I'm using my finger to help shape them. If you do this, just make sure you're not going to burn yourself first. You can even use something heat resistant and round to help create the shape. Please note, this is the only mannequin head I had at the time of filming. I now have a nice canvas one that doesn't move about constantly. I definitely use a canvas one if possible when cutting and styling. This polystyrene head is perfect for anything messy or for drying your wigs. It's especially handy when you're cutting because sometimes you might end up cutting squint because of the mannequin head itself. Like this one doesn't actually attach properly. So now that I've kind of styled the front and the back roughly how I want, it's time to cut. Usually I'll use the neck and the shoulders kind of as a reference of where it should stop. So in this case it was quite near the jawline. You'll notice when I'm cutting the hair, I'm not just chopping it off, I'm actually thinning it. So when you thin a wig, you basically take the scissors and you just run it down. Don't go too far up because you don't want to end up with little short bits near the top of the head. You want them all to kind of be at the bottom. But if you've ever seen a wig and it looks really choppy at the end, it's because a lot of the lengths are too much the same. They need to be sort of staggered for it to look natural. So you can see I'm sort of freestyle cutting this right now, and the shape I'm wanting to get is I want it to be kind of like thinner at the bottom and then kind of come up in this round shape towards the top of the head. If you have problems with the finger wave at the front, you can just redo it once you've styled some of it. It does come out actually, so you might even be better doing that last, but I decided because I just wanted to make sure the length was right. So that's why I did it first. After fixing it, I thought it looked a bit better. You can see I'm cutting some of the back section shorter at the top. This is to help create the shape I want. Also, if you think about it, longer strands mean more weight. More weight will weigh the look down, and we need this to be quite light at the top, because we're going to be adding a lot of height here. So I just kept working on this side of the wig until I was happy, and then what I would do is match the other side with it, because obviously the other side looks a bit longer at the moment. That will all get chopped and it should match roughly the other side. So once I'd roughly cut this in the way I wanted it, I actually went in with a black Sharpie. The reason I'm using a black Sharpie is this one's actually dried out quite a bit, so it's not going on black, it's going on kind of grey. And I felt like these white strands on the black side looked a bit too white. They were just a bit too obvious and contrasty. So what I did was I ran this sort of dried out black Sharpie along it, and that kind of gave this sort of grey tinge along these hairs and then made them less obvious. If you don't have a dried out black Sharpie, you could probably just grab like a grey one if you've got one. I felt like it really made a difference and it just looked a bit more natural. So once I'd done that, I was just finishing touches. I still felt like the back really needed a lot more height, so I just spent a bit of time backcombing the back. The best thing about these wigs is you can always look at the reference photo, so it's like a spot the difference almost. And so once I'd done that, it definitely came together. The height made such a difference with this style, and this is what I was left with. I want this style to last, so I'm using Got To Be Freeze Spray. This spray is perfect for any style that has no movement. If you want your wig to blow nicely in a breeze, do not use this. If you want it to be a set style, this is the stuff. You can obviously wash this out too if you ever want to restyle. So here we have it, the finished Cruella look, and I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial.